All yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is the scheduled community meeting for the special use permit for the Living Earth School camp proposal. And the plan will be, first I will give a quick introduction of myself and the process, and then we'll move it over to the applicants from the Living Earth School to talk about their proposal. And we'll have questions and answers after that. So I'm Scott Clark. I'm with the Community Development Department's Planning Division. I'm the lead reviewer for the special use permit proposal. And I will go ahead and pull up my introductory presentation here, which is nice and brief, fortunately. And then here we go. All righty, so tonight is a community meeting. The point of these meetings is to share information about proposed projects for county residents in the surrounding area, talk about the development review process and the relevant policies and regulations, and also to get your feedback. So all of you who are attendees, thank you for attending, and we will definitely have time after the presentations to get your questions and your input on this. So just going to go through the process here and a couple of key points that affect any special use permit, this one included. So we start off with, what is the comprehensive plan? Comprehensive plan is a document that establishes a vision for land use in the county. It's an overarching policy for how we treat different areas of the county and what uses should be permitted there, and how to make land use decisions. It says here the policies, plans, and recommendations are developed in extensive engagement with community members, especially those most directly affected. This property that we're talking about tonight is designated as part of the county's rural areas, and those rural areas are designated for agriculture, forestry, resource conservation, and cultural preservation. Move on to these. And just to summarize all of that, these are the goals in the plan for the rural areas. And there are several, and they all interact and relate to each other, but strong agricultural economy, preserving natural resources, historic, archaeological, and cultural resources, rural and historic landscapes being protected for their own value and for scenic value. We have a goal here for an objective for crossroads communities, which is not really relevant tonight, but distinct boundaries between the rural area and the development areas, providing information for citizens to be well informed and make good decisions on the rural areas. And then the area B objective is more about our land use planning with the university. And a step down in more detail is, what is zoning? Zoning is legal regulation that tells you what you can do in any particular piece of land. It'll have a zoning designation. Those zoning designations should be generally in alignment with the comprehensive plan. This little snippet of a map here you can see is lots of different colors that correspond with properties in different zoning districts. And then what looks like a blank is not a blank, that's just filled in with white, and that is the rural area zoning district, which again is what we're talking about tonight. So the zoning ordinance dictates what can be done by right today. In any given zoning district, you've got several to dozens of uses that you can do by right. For example, in the rural areas district, you can do agriculture, you can do forestry, you can have a dwelling on your property. There are dozens of things you can do by right without any additional permission from the county. However, there are also uses that are permitted only by special use permit. What this means is they may or may not be permitted. It comes down to a judgment call by the Board of Supervisors whether a particular proposal is appropriate in its zoning district. So, proposal we're talking about tonight falls under the special use permit category. So I'll just focus on those rather than the rezonings. So as I mentioned, if a property owner wants to develop a use on the special uses list in a zoning district, board approval is required. This is a legislative review. There's many steps to this process. This is a very loose overview, but begins with review by county staff and other agencies to identify and address the issues with it. Then it's reviewed by the Planning Commission, whose job is to advise the board on land use issues. And finally, the board themselves will consider it and make a decision. How do we decide on special use permits? There are standards in the zoning ordinance for how the board should evaluate any given special use permit. And this could be anything from a camp in the rural areas like we're talking about tonight to a drive through along US 29 in a commercial district. They all have the same overall standards for how they should be evaluated. One is that there's no substantial detriment to the surrounding properties. Two is that the overall character of the area would remain unchanged. Third is called harmony, and that's talking about whether it's in alignment with the purposes of the zoning ordinance overall and for the zoning chapter for that particular district. For example, the rural area zoning district has purposes that include water quality protection, agricultural land and use protection, natural resource protection, historic preservation, many of the same things that we talked about with the comp plan, and finally consistency with the comp plan. And so how does a development proceed through this process in the county? There are many steps to it. And this is an overall map of how these things occur. There's the stage of the legislative review for uses like this that are not permitted by right, when it requires a special use permit or a zoning map amendment. That stage always comes first. And the use can't proceed to any of the later stages until the Board of Supervisors approves that use. If it's not approved by them or if they deny it, that's the end of the process. If they approve it, then it goes on to these later, more detailed stages, including the site design review, which has to do with site plans or subdivisions if they're already involved for residential projects, water resource protection, architectural review, any of those more specific review steps happen after the legislative approval. And then finally, at the end, you have the really super detailed review of things like building permits and zoning clearances to begin a use that are very much down into the nitty-gritty details that really matter in the end. So that's the process overall. Where are we? Well, we're about there, where the arrow is. We're pretty early on in all of this. And the point of having our meeting this early in the process, again, is to let the applicants talk to the nearby landowners, get feedback, and get information that informs the process. So I'll close out here in my portion of the presentation by just covering the timeline. This application was submitted back in June. And our first comments as staff on the application with questions or recommendations for changes will be going out to the applicants this Friday. So intentionally, we're putting the public comment and the first staff comment close together so the applicants get a lot of information to react to. We have not yet scheduled this for the Planning Commission or board public hearings. We're too early in the process for that yet. The applicants will, as any applicant would at this point, receive our responses and yours, revise their application accordingly, and resubmit for their final consideration. However, excuse me, if you have any questions about the timing of this or the details or how the process works, please feel free to contact me. My email address, sclark@albemarle.org, is here at the bottom of the screen. And I can always provide you with an update if you need it on what the status of the project is. So I will stop sharing and I'll let the applicants introduce themselves and go ahead and give their presentation about what they're proposing.
Great. I'm Scott Cunningham. I'm the Director of Operations with the Living Earth School. And with me here is Adam Hub-Knott, as people know Hub. He's been the founder and co-founder of the school when that started back, 19 years ago. So we have a small presentation here to try and go through to share some overview. Let me get this right. Well, you might see the whole thing. I hope I haven't screwed it up. Format.
Scott, you've got a present button up at the top right there.
Present, that's what I was looking for. Okay, thank you, Scott. So Living Earth School, we're looking to locate a permanent home on the Israel Mountain Farm, not the whole farm, just a section of it, and I'll go into that in detail. What we are, the Living Earth School, is a school that provides programs from little kids to senior citizens. We have a program that has a 71-year-old person registered to participate in it. So we provide and renew connections with the earth. Our goal is to build humans into the earth with a deep connection with nature, an understanding of how nature works, the environment, and to build their understanding of their role in this community, how to care for nature, and how to make it a part of their daily lives. And that's what we've been doing for the last 19 years. Oh. Israel Mountain Farm is 424 acres. It is shown here in the highlighted yellow. This is from the county map. You can see it's very vast. If I use my cursor, from this right edge here, there's a small entrance, an old logging road with a bridge over a creek. This is the area that I'm going to show you, but this is the area where the Living Earth School would be looking to locate and run operations, mainly back here in this lower almost valley from the critical slope and along here. So this is the actual early drawings and idea of what we'd like to propose for this special use permit of running our camps. This is kind of our pie in the sky, but what I'd like to do is give everybody a second to look at that, and then I'll walk through it slowly and I can take questions. I think, am I taking questions at the end, Scott, or do I take them during the process?
Yeah, we'll take the questions after you're done going through the presentation.
Okay. So this black line is now a representation of what was the yellow line. So this is just a small corner. This is the entry from Pounding Creek Road. There's a small bridge, and we expect to have a circular driveway around this more flat area. This is a few hundred yards. I'm sorry, I forgot to put the metrics on there. But we'll have a round driveway. This is also what we will have here is we desire in the future, we have to raise money for, but we want to put it in the special use permit, a camp hall, which would be an administration meeting place, but built into the side of the hill. So the basement could be the kitchen, nurse station, and an outdoor eating area attached to it with an overhang for the porch. But anyway, without the details, it's a small building. It is only 2,500 square feet for its footprint, allowing it to be two stories, about 5,000 square feet. It's not going to be a large building with grand presence. I'll talk a little later, but we plan to have our buildings more blend into nature and let nature be the true aesthetics. So across from here is a barn that would house a lot of our equipment. We also would like to have a wood, that'd be our home for our wood shop, where we do various programs from making bows and arrows and making other crafts within that. If we come around and down a little further, we're looking at this is a flatland, and more so, and that would be a green garden area, a play meadow. Along that play meadow, we'd like to have a nature library, a small building. Again, I believe we put 600 square feet for the nature building, a pavilion. Again, that could be the nature library, either one, switch them around. When we look at the actual activities, we would see the kids playing in this area a lot, but also using these wooded areas that I'm moving my cursor around to the right. The main activities of the campers would be in this area. The sleeping would be the platform tents that would be built on this side. Platform tents are typically 10 by 14, 3 sides wood with a hard top and a canvas front. Then up next to that would be the staff cabins. And again, this is very high up. There's a ridge on this side. And this is all more of an old growth woods. So these would be fit inside amongst the trees. And all of this back here would not be visible at all from the roadway. It's pretty much not visible from any neighbors whatsoever. The staff cabins, and then this dotted line along here is a fire safety route, fire route, or emergency evacuation. So it is a road, but it's not a main road. It's just an access road for staff. Let me think. Hub, do you have other thoughts on that I might have missed, or?
I mean, the neighbor to the north on that, thank you all, by the way, for your time, and to the community for coming out and hearing about this. You said the cabins weren't visible from any neighboring property. There is that bordering property but I think it's 400 some acres or 700 acres that there's no homes on. So if they were to go right up to their fence line, they might be able to see it. But I'm trying to think of anything else. No, I think that covers it. I mean, there's gonna be gardens down that lowland. There's that one building that's in the showing here by mistake on our part that's within the flood zone, but obviously the all that stuff would be sorted out with the permitting process. So I think that
should have moved over.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is the basics of a camp, and what we're hoping to get the use. The total area of the total 424 properties that is Israel Mountain Farm, about 140 acres of it would be accessible for us to utilize through the camps. But this area here that we're looking at is really only about 50 to 60 acres. Okay, and this is a little bit better picture of where that LES camp area would be. Okay. This is the neighbors. So if we're looking from the camp location of where I pointed to the valley, the play area and the campsites, the nearest neighbors is we have Miller School, which is directly, I believe that's south, which is 1 mile away. And we have 2 neighbors on Pounding Creek, one of them which is 1/3 of a mile away, and the other one is 2/3 of a mile away. Being that our activities would be so far off Pounding Creek Road in that valley, we feel it's very well situated to keep the sound and any activities from radiating amongst our neighbors. So real quickly, I thought it'd be easy to take a moment just to say what we're not going to be doing. And I know there's just to address some of the things, we're not selling alcohol. We're not a brewery. We're not a vineyard. That's not going to happen. Most of our participants don't need that. We are not a concert venues that's going to amplify music events. We're not having festy weekends, the festy or anything of that nature. It's not us. We're not installing any kind of stadium lighting. We don't want a lot of lighting. We actually want all of our lighting to be downward to enhance a dark sky friendly terminology. We need the kids and we want the parents and we want all the people that come out there to be able to visually see the night sky and the stars and be part of it. Our buildings that we're looking to do are not large and prominent. We're looking for a very few buildings, as you can see, that'll blend into the landscape. This is a nature program. We're good neighbors. We don't discriminate. We do and continue to plan doing more programs to get all people into nature, to get them to understand nature, absorb it, and be a part of it. And we won't be inconsiderate neighbors. About what we're going to build, we're looking at putting in green building, solar, cistern water systems, and gray water management. Like I said, dark sky friendly lighting. Our driveway will be permeable, environmentally friendly, landscaping. We're planning to put in lots of landscaping that will repair the forest that's there. We'll be able to grow the forest more healthy, take out non-native species, put in native species, add edible components, farms, bushes, farming, bushes, etc. In fact, our total building footprint of all the tents and the proposed shower house, the proposed camp hall, the proposed pavilions and stuff comes up to about less than a half an acre on all 140 acres there. So we do not plan, and we do not envision a large imprint. And when Scott was talking about the vision plan, one of the things I thought is, the worst case scenario is we are on the land for some time, and if we go away, it's like the land will be better, and we won't have any permanent negative impact on it. So let's talk about the concern about how many people in traffic. We work to keep our programs for our participants, our kids and our campers, at a 1-to-6 ratio, 1 instructor to 6 kids. So it's very intimate, and it's very well managed, and lots of one-on-one as much as possible. So when we're looking at doing this year-round school, our busiest time is summer. So spring, fall, and winter, we run home schools, some of them in Charlottesville, some in Stanton, some in Goochland and elsewhere. But our real busy time for having this land is to allow us to do our day camps and overnight camps, which is during the summer. It's just a few weeks during the summer. We plan, and have in the past, we have done our camps overnight camps are 6 weeks. That's what we've done in the past. We would look to be able to do that more going forward with this land. It would be able to support more weeks. And that would help us meet the demand for our programs that we're currently not able to meet because of the size. But it doesn't mean it's onerous. We're only looking to have at a max 200 participants per day to support our program year round. But that does not mean we want them 200 people every day. What it means is that's what we need to really run a healthy summer camp program. But in the spring, fall, and winter, that would be down substantially to a lower number. And that's what's shown here in my chart, where I look at spring. You can see that for staffing and participants might be, and these are high numbers for us, but I wanted to be honest and transparent, is it might be 50 people on a program on a Sunday, or maybe 50 homeschoolers on a Monday or a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. Currently, we only run 2 days in Charlottesville during the week, which is a Wednesday and Friday. So because I'm showing here days on the participants every day, what I'm showing is that we could possibly do that, but I'm not saying that we would definitely do that. Summer camp, summer camp, we're looking at Sunday is one of the drop-off days, so that shows more participants and trips. Fridays is another pickup day, and our weekends are pretty mild during the summer because we work during the week with our day camps and the overnight camps. But there are few during the week trips because our summer camps overnight drop off on Sunday and pick up on Friday. So it's one trip in and the parents leave, one trip back and the parents leave with the kids. So that really reduces traffic. The other part of it is we have a tremendous program that's worked very well, which is putting together carpools by linking and connecting parents geographically so that they can carpool together. and that's been a big hit. Unfortunately, during COVID, that's not happening as much, which makes sense. But let me show you, before I get into that, let me show you a little bit more about the fall. Sorry, give it a second. There we go, too far. My computer's slowed a little bit. Here we go. Fall, again, is going to be lighter. We do some homeschool, we do some weekend programs, we do some adult programs, education. Some of those programs that we do are leather crafting, wild edible foraging, mushroom hunts, building workshops, father-child, mother-child mentoring programs or building programs, and then some of the school year programs during the day. But there's a lot of different programs that don't run all the time. In the winter, with the land, we expect to be able to actually keep up some of the programs, which would be great. But that would be something that we were working to develop, and we don't have tremendous amount of programs during the winter right now. Most, again, our traffic would be during the summer months when it's dry and a short span of time over the 2.5 months of the summer. So for this, what I've done this year is for our summer day camps, we have tallied cars every week to tally how many cars come to bring kids and pick up kids. And with the 50 kids we have a week, the week 1, we had 26 cars, week 2, 28, week 3, 29, week 4, 24, week 5, 29, week 6, 27. So obviously we have different campers from different families coming at different times. But overall, we found that there's just under, on average, 2 kids per car coming to our day camps. Now, our day camps max out at about 60. So that's a maximum that we have, and we expect that would put somewhere around 30 cars. That's what I put back on that chart. It's about 30 cars per day. Now, that's COVID, and we know that when we put together and we create our carpool program, it lowers the car trips to camp, and that we expect that to drop by 25 to 30% when we get back to that, because people in this area love to carpool, and many of our campers are friends with each other because it's a very strong community. Hub, you have anything to add on that?
Nothing that would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, except I usually see kids at camp during day camp in the years past before COVID, 5 or 6 kids pile out of the car. And so, yeah, so I think the traffic, and the numbers that we're quoting, I think we're asking for a larger amount, partly because talking with the planning commission and all is saying that, like, ask for your pie in the sky so you don't have to come back and redo this process every year if you want to change your numbers a little bit. So we're trying to avoid that. But I'll say, like, our biggest summer camps historically have been, with overnight and day camp, have been about 100 kids. And that worked comfortably. And whether we expand beyond that remains to be seen. But that's just where we were for about 10 years. And I think, so yeah, so like what Scott's saying here with some of these numbers, it may never reach to those levels. So that's it for now.
Thanks, Hub. That's a good reminder. Yeah, that's a lot of feedback we get is we want to go through this process once. And that's kind of why we put in the camp hall, because we don't have the money for it now, but we want to, in a few years, be able to make something like that happen. So we're looking long-term, and we're looking towards building the community there that creates this sanctuary for the kids. I think, and that was actually where I ended. Just the last part was Q&A, Scott.
Great. Thank you for covering all those details. I appreciate that. I think we will now move on to getting questions from the attendees. And Carolyn, am I right that people who want to ask questions or make a comment can just raise their hand using the raise hand button?
That's correct. I'll unmute them and let them speak. First, we have Sarah Brumfield. Sarah, please unmute yourself and
Hi.
feel free to talk.
Thank you very much. We live actually nearby and bicycle down Pounding Creek Road. And my main concern is that Pounding Creek Road cannot really accommodate 2 passing cars. So how is the traffic flow of this going to work? People can access this road from both Dick Woods and from Miller School. The cars won't be able to pass each other. The gravel road itself is poorly maintained, often floods out, and is dangerous down the sides. So, I mean, you get a situation where you have 30 cars a day, that's 60 trips going in and out. Those are people passing each other, you know, alongside bicyclists and things like that. And it makes that entire situation really dangerous. And that's my main concern is, you know, like bicycling down that road would just be deadly, you know, at that point.
Thanks, Sarah. You mentioned a couple of things about that. One was that the road floods out and is poorly maintained. Has that been brought to the attention of VDOT that you know of?
I can tell you, you know, VDOT does at times grade the road, but, you know, the gravel roads don't always get fast maintenance in our area.
Okay.
Yeah, and we will, this is Scott Clark, we will obviously be talking with VDOT as part of this review process. So it's a good topic to raise as a concern, both the width issues and the maintenance issues. And we will try to get more information on that from VDOT to make sure that is addressed so everybody understands what the impacts will be.
Can I add something about that? When we were at Sugar Hollow, the road does get narrow. There's a lot of bottlenecks at the bridges and back on Sugar Hollow Road. And, you know, our concern was, well, one of the things we do is like send out really 2 or 3 reminders to parents to make sure they read it, is about the roads, about driving slow, about respecting neighbors. We have in Sugar Hollow, we did put signs up about going slow. And if there was like a blind turn, you know, we put signs up for that. Cause I hear what you're saying about that road. I mean, one thing we've experienced in Sugar Hollow is that most people kind of come all in, drop their kids off, and then they're all kind of like leaving together. So it's kind of a more of one way in, one way out. Not to say that people aren't coming back late or something like that, but we do try to address that. We try to minimize the cars. We try to, and again, just alert them to driving slow and being respectful and about the road conditions. And from our statistics, or when we looked at it on Google Earth, where will most people come from, or Google Maps, sorry, or what MapQuest, which my kids say doesn't even exist anymore. But anyway, that most of the people, from our mapping that we've done of all of our zip codes that people come from, most of our traffic comes from the north, which when we run through the map systems of coming from the different areas, it mostly brings them in off of Dick Woods as opposed to through Batesville. So, and that's when we were looking at it, was like in the 90-95% range of people being directed from the north. I know that can be manipulated with Google Earth if we felt the need to. I think you can get them to reroute people differently, but as of right now, that's how it stands.
Yes, and Sarah, I would add that we had VDOT out to look at the entrance, and the sight lines were good for the entrance. We would expand that entrance and make it more of a commercial entrance and give it more roadway. And we would definitely be entertaining looking and hearing more about VDOT and what to do with the road to make it more safe. But I also kind of like keeping it not too narrow, but also not a 2-lane highway, because I really like the idea of keeping the traffic slow and cautious and people having to be aware. But it's definitely something we'll need to work with Scott Clark and VDOT on.
Okay, next we have Steve Rosenfeld. Steve, unmute yourself and go ahead and ask our question.
Hi. Although we probably live about 2 or 3 miles as the crow flies from the camp, what concerns me most is that in the 2 pictures that were circulated about the kids who participated and the staff who participated, I only saw maybe 1 person of color. I couldn't be certain, but I saw only white staff and what appeared to be, who knows, 30, 40 white children. Why is that? And is there some plan to address that? Are there scholarship plans in the offering? What exactly, how can you explain why there's so much whiteness, and what are your plans? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, Steve, no, you're fine. You're fine. Actually, that touches on one of the reasons I'm actually with the Living Earth School. And I don't want to detract too much from this, but we have created a nonprofit Living Earth School organization, and we're rolling that into a nonprofit. The point is because we want to be able to create partnerships with many other nonprofits that need to grow the reach of nature to those that don't normally get into nature. So no, it is an issue, and we're aware of it, and it goes beyond color as just to LGBTQs. It goes to just anybody that we want to get people out, whether it's young, old, etc. So we really feel that that'll help. So in 2022, on the 20th anniversary, we're moving to a nonprofit. You'll be hearing more about that if you sign up at our website for the information. And we do things also, Steve, like programs for the Hospice of the Piedmont. We brought the kids out and we did some ceremonial, like letting go, and created some nature statues and such. And we plan on having part of the campus have a legacy forest where kids can come out and plant a tree and make that something that is there permanent, where they can come and celebrate the circle of life.
I would like to add on that we do have a scholarship fund. I think one of the we've been very successful in 19 years as far as nature programs go when I survey other ones around the country, which has been a great thing. The downside of that is we can send an email out about opening programs up and they fill, and therefore it doesn't require a lot of work on our part to go out and fill programs. Like we can literally send the MailChimp out, and then whatever program we put out tends to fill really fast. You know, a lot of our summer camps were filled within 6 hours this year. So the downside of that success is it hasn't forced us into like how do we broaden this? We probably have the most diversity this summer than we've ever had, and that's one of our goals, and it's on a lot of our and it starts with hiring. Honestly, I think is hiring a more diverse staffing, and I think there's a lot of areas it's been a big topic in the Nature Connection Network that there's conferences we go to, and the big topic is, you know, we're very white. We recognize that. And how do we build bridges and make networks in towns to change that? Because it is something that is not missed on us and not missed on our staff, because it's a big concern of our staff and the younger generation today. So we are addressing it, and that's one of our hopes, is to address that more thoroughly as we get a permanent base. So honestly, in the past 2 years, COVID has kind of put us more in survival mode, and just how do we just stay existing? So.
Well, I'll just conclude that I appreciate your sincerity, but I'm dubious. Just based historically, a lot of promises are made to Albemarle County in the construction area when they claim and purport to create 10% of their housing to low income. And I don't think they've ever reached that. Maybe Scott knows, but it's more of these promises. You could fill that camp pretty quickly if you made contact in the low income community with just low-income people. There's nowhere for their children to go, or fewer options. And so I guess I'll say that I appreciate your sincerity, but we'll be watching and seeing what these hopes and dreams of yours amount to.
I appreciate you yeah, giving us your feedback. And I do see that as a lot of empty promises in this world. And I mean, that's part of the reason for going nonprofit is how can we get grants? How can we get funding to be able to pay our staff a living wage and be able to run programs for people that really need it? And it's been hard to do that in a for-profit model. And that's one of the big impetuses. And we're also in the process, you know, pulling together a board and advisory. And I would love, because of your sincerity, to, you know, have lunch and meet and talk, because you know, obviously I think accountability is great, and if you would be willing, it'd be great to have your feedback and hold us accountable, because yeah, I think it takes a group of us to make this work. That's
okay.
All.
Make me an offer.
Steve, I will let you know real quick, though, that we did actually get a phone call from one of our social workers that is a friend of ours and a friend of the camp, and the kids have gone, and she asked that we take somebody on our hiking trip this week on the AT. And she said straight up, he can't afford it. His family can't afford it. They're immigrants, but he needs to get out. It's a mental health thing. So we put him on it. So we do it, but we're not going to publicize it. But I'd be happy to talk to you about it. It's awesome. I love doing it. It makes a difference in people's lives.
Terrific.
Okay. Do we have Supervisor Palmer? Go ahead and unmute yourself. You can ask your question.
Sure. Thank you. I just had a comment. One of the previous speakers mentioned about the road, and the answer to the question of have VDOT been notified. VDOT has been notified many, many, many times on the washout on that road that occurs. And just like most of our other rural roads, it takes them a while to get to it, especially if we have a year like 2018, 2019, where the burden of washed out gravel roads is really tremendous. So I would keep that in mind. And also to comment on your comment about being able to get Google Maps to reroute. VDOT and county staff and some of us have been trying to get Google to reroute out of Batesville for years. And it is extremely difficult to get them to do anything. And you know, and there's been terrible success, lack of success on getting Google Maps to do anything. So just a comment, I would not depend upon that. Many of us have tried our best. Thank you, including VDOT. And they've told us they can't do it. So if they can't do it, I'm not sure who can.
Thanks, Liz.
Okay.
And I think we actually appreciate where it's coming from, the fact that most people have come down the road that has no neighbors versus sending them right through this middle of Batesville. So if VDOT can't change it, then most of the people would be directed down the more vacant road. So I think that's a positive.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all.
All right, next we have Sally Tucker. Sally, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, hi. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. It sounds like a good school, and I've heard feedback from some of my neighbors that they've attended and really liked it. So I think that's a good thing. It's much better than having a development across the street for me. And I'm basically the house that's across the street from the more western entrance. The old house, it's green with orange shutters. So I've got a lot of more nuts and bolts questions. I noticed on the original map, there was a pond and a caretaker's building. Wondered, and that was not shown on the map you showed with your talk today. I'll just run down the various things that I was concerned about. Second one was, is there going to be a well sunk, or are you doing just rainwater catchment in your cistern? Internet is a big thing for us. Are you going to have any kind of internet, you know, in your business office or anything? Because the DSL out here slows down. Anybody else that gets on the DSL slows everything down. And with a new neighbor between us and the next house, we've seen horrible service when that happened. And the biggest thing for me, I think, is the traffic. And a lot of people in Batesville and surrounding areas, as well as the people that live on this road, use that road for recreation, depend on it being a slow moving road. And just walking down the road on, I think it was Sunday when you all were having a pickup. I might have gotten that day wrong, but I think it was Sunday. There was a pickup and you were doing sort of like a small dry run. I had at least 6, 8 cars pass me. And that's just, it's worse than rush hour on a normal day. And I just can't imagine when you're going to have 100 to possibly 200 people camping there. That road is not going to handle that kind of traffic. And the only way I see it around it is that you're going to have to bus those kids up and meet them in Crozet or something like that and put them on a school bus and bring them in. But because it's not livable. That's my biggest concern. I love what you guys are doing, but the traffic is going to be horrendous.
Okay, thanks, Sally. Let me address a couple of your items there. The picture rendition changed because we took off the pond in the caretaker's house based upon conversation with some of the commission. It would add complexity and just a lot of challenges that we don't have the time or ability to address. It wasn't of that high value. So the caretaker's house is out, and we took off LES. LES is not going to put in a pond. We'll figure out some other way. We will have a well, probably. We at least one well, and it would be, as we've been told, based upon our conversations with the Department of Health, it would be very highly regulated because it would be considered community, and we would have to submit to testing. I think it's quarterly, or I believe it's quarterly. So there would be a well. The internet, we're a very small organization. Yes, we do use internet. And if you're on CenturyLink, like I am up in Barbersville, I share your pain. And when it's working, it works, barely. But yeah, we do have internet. We would plan on using internet. I'm not sure how far away that is from the main drop for CenturyLink. I know it only has a distance it can travel to be supportive of actually true broadband. But yeah, we would plan on having internet for the few people that use a computer. And then I understand your concern about the recreation on the road. And we can look into alternatives on how to get people there.
As far as an answer to your distance, I think you measured it out as 1.3 miles. We're exactly 1 mile from the CenturyLink station.
The drop. Okay, that shouldn't be there. Okay, because it usually has a 3 miles before it totally degrades. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead. Thanks for bringing up your concerns. At least we alleviated a couple.
Next, not really sure how to say this. I'm going to give it a try. Sareefa?
Sharifa.
Okay, great. Well, it's your turn.
Hi. I'm just going to make this quick. I'm not a direct neighbor, but I am a very long time friend of Living Earth School. I do live in Batesville. I know the mission of Living Earth School for at least 15 years and have known Kate and Hub and other staff members. And I just feel like in terms of the vision, the plan for Albemarle County for the rural areas to protect and preserve the natural resources and to retain the rural character. I feel like you could not have a better neighbor and a better participant in this. What the Living Earth School is doing is not only ensuring this preservation of the natural resources and the rural character, but also training children, training the future, so that we're not just looking at what we have right now, but we're educating children, we're educating whole populations to really respect and value the natural environment. And I just have to say, personally, I would be thrilled for the Living Earth School to be so close, to be, you know, just a short hop, skip, and a jump away in Batesville. And I just really want to focus again on the children. I'm an educator myself. I had a small home program here for very young children, and it's an outdoor program. And many of my students then went on to the Living Earth School. And I just think that the children are, we need to look to today, we need to look out for the traffic and the internet and so forth, but we really have to have our eye on the future. And the Living Earth School is educating the future. So that's all I have to say, and I'm excited about the possibility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I don't have anybody else with their hand up. So Scott, I will turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you everyone for attending and for raising your issues and questions. We appreciate the feedback. I'm sure it'll be useful to our applicants here to have that information and be able to react to it as they continue to refine their application. Again, if you have any questions about the process or the timing of the public hearings on this, which again aren't scheduled yet, or about how the review is going, feel free to email me at sclark@albemarle.org. I'll be happy to update anybody who's interested. Scott and Hub, did you have any last minute responses you needed to make before we finish things off here? No is an acceptable answer.
No, but thank you all. And thank you to the county for putting all this together. And thank you all for coming in and giving us your feedback. And we are looking to be good neighbors. So thanks.
Yeah, I'm excited about where the land is, in the sense that it's the way it's tucked back in the valley, that I think it will be a quiet presence on the land. And just working with 19 years of kids and watching them grow up, and some of them are our staff and some are in the field of conservation or outdoor education professionally now. One's took what she learned to go to Capitol Hill to try to change policies, and I just see the impact. And I remember, I don't know, with the future of the land and the earth right now, you know, it's easy to have a dim prospect on it, but I do feel like the future lies in the children and the elders and all the way through the generations. That, yeah, it's rich. And yeah, so there's a lot more I could always say, but I'll leave it at that. But thank you all for your time. And yeah, and if you know, we're findable. You probably have our email from this, or I'm not, but if you have questions or more concerns or want to meet in person, I'm happy to meet with anybody to meet and talk and discuss and, you know, try to come up with solutions and address it, because we are wanting to be good neighbors and we are wanting to continuing outdoor education with the kids, which is really hard right now being a homeless organization. So, so we're trying to solve that the best we can, and looking forward to the community's help with that. So thank you all.
All right, well, with that, I think we can bring it to a close, and thank you all again for attending, and feel free to contact us at the county if you have any questions. And thank you and good night.